it was someone else, which it likely will not be, but if it was, there's some debts that need to be settled and some refunds for donations that were designated for the general election. But generally, it would not be hard. If it was someone else, it would go to the Democratic National Committee, and all of these things would have to suss themselves out. By the way, super PAC money, can do anything you want with it. So that's not an issue at all. But now we turn our attention to August 19th, Chicago. That is the beginning of the DNC, their nominating convention. I didn't think anything could get more exciting than the Republican convention we just came out of. This might.
So, Aaron, how much influence will Kamala Harris's running mate carry when it comes to support and fundraising?
It's a great question. And frankly, it's unclear right now. A lot of Democratic operatives, folks inside DC and the Democratic Party have said that it doesn't matter, but what they don't want to do is make a more historic ticket than it already is. That's another way of saying like they don't need two women on it. They're not looking to, change anything. This always frustrates me, the identity politics, because it actually takes away any sort of accomplishment of the person chosen if they are a minority or female, and it also doesn't just let meritocracy win. So that's kind of annoying to hear out the gate, but we will see how they appoint accordingly. You will notice that a lot of these other big names, particularly Democratic governors, I'm talking about Gavin Newsom, Gretchen Whitmer, they have not yet formally endorsed Kamala Harris. And the question becomes, is that because they think that they might be the nominee? It's unlikely, but a possibility. And again, less than 24 hours into this announcement, we might hear more as the day rolls on.
With 28 days to go until the Democratic National Convention, Aaron, how critical is it? I mean, fundraising, ads, everything that needs to happen. If indeed Kamala Harris is the nominee, it would behoove them to do it quicker. Is it important that Democrats come together and coalesce around her quickly as opposed to stretching this out closer and closer to the convention?
It is, which is likely why they will do it. If you look at the polling numbers, it's okay. Now the question becomes, okay, well, if Biden isn't fit enough to run, is he fit enough to lead the country? Will Kamala Harris take over? And then I think an interesting one, which we don't have any polling numbers on yet, would it behoove her to be the incumbent or to be, just this new candidate coming out after Biden steps aside? She would inherit all of the issues of, obviously she was the immigration czar, so that's already on her shoulders, but the issues of inflation, everything else that Biden has been struggling with in his presidency when it comes to polling numbers. So it might be cleaner if she didn't run until then, but she might have to. Well, again, less than 24 hours. We haven't had a week in a while that hasn't been historic. So just trying to take it all in and process as quickly as possible and then move forward accordingly.
Great stuff from national correspondent Aaron Real. So true. In 8 days, we went from an attempted assassination on former President Donald Trump. 8 days later, the sitting president, Joe Biden, drops out of the race. And if you connect the dots, essentially forced out of the race as the party pretty much gave up on him. More coming up with Randy Beamer in studio, including your talkbacks on the free iHeartRadio app. What do you think of Biden dropping out? What do you think of Kamala Harris? What do you think this does for the 2024 presidential election? Reaction coming up. WOAI News Time, 8:15. Just ahead of headlines, traffic, and weather together, then more with Randy Beamer in studio. And we hear from you, your reaction to this huge, historic political news on our Talkback feature on the free iHeartRadio app. But first, Charity McCurdy, what stories are you tracking?
Following growing concerns about his ability to beat Trump, President Biden is ending his re-election bid. The Democratic delegations from at least 5 states have endorsed Vice President Harris for president. And West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin says he's no longer considering challenging Harris for the Democratic nomination. We'll have the latest coming up. Right now, traffic and weather together.
Your Weather Channel forecast, 70% chance of afternoon thunderstorms, heavy rain expected overnight with a high of about 91. Overnight lows in the mid-70s. Morning rain is likely tomorrow as you drive into work with a high of 86. Wednesday, scattered thunderstorms in the forecast, high in the mid-80s. Right now, 77 in Castroville, 76 in Balcones Heights, partly cloudy and 77 at News Radio 1200 WOAI. San Antonio's first news, Randy Beamer in studio. She's Charity McCurdy. I'm Chris Duell. We're going to hear from you coming up, your reaction to Biden dropping out and where we stand now among Democrats and Republicans. But first, let's listen to House Speaker Mike Johnson yesterday on this situation. So think about that, Randy. There could be lawsuits in certain states, and certainly the Republicans would want to make this happen, saying, you can't get Biden's name off the ballot.
There will be lawsuits. And I think one of the things that's going to be interesting here, we talked about polarization. I think right now, the next couple, 3-4 weeks is going to be led as much by the politicians as by their counterparts in the media. You know, Tucker Carlson was up in the booth with Trump. You're going to see a Sean Hannity of Trump and other Republicans kind of lead the way in how the fight should be taken to Kamala Harris, as much as a Mike Johnson and as much as Donald Trump. He can lead that. J.D. Vance can lead that. But they're also going to let the media do a lot of their work in attacking the Democrats, and the same thing on the Democratic side. You saw, George Stephanopoulos and some other more friendly people interviewing the Democrats or Biden. I think you're going to see the reason we're polarized as much as anything is the media. And you're going to see that over the next 2 or 3 weeks, especially. So get your news from both sides or you won't know what's happening. It'll be 2 different realities.
And of course, the Democratic National Convention is going to hold a public meeting on Wednesday where they will kind of provide some clarity on how Democrats will go about selecting their new presidential nominee. And that might kind of help iron out some questions about how this will all work. So it'll be interesting. But at this point, it seems like Kamala Harris is going to be the nominee. It seems like more and more Democrats are coming out in support of her. And the $50 million that she's managed to raise since Biden dropped out of the race, I think is very telling.
All right, let's hear from the people. Let's go to a talk back. Let's see what we got. All right, Randy Beamer, tell us who's moving the shells. Is it Barack Obama or is it the Clintons?
Oh, yes. I'll just say yes. But, you notice that Barack Obama didn't come out and officially endorse Kamala Harris, although the Clintons did. I think so that people won't think that it's the powers that be behind the scenes and Michelle Obama is really going to come in at the last minute and parachute in and become the savior of the Democratic Party. I am not that much of a conspiracy theorist, but it's a good question. It'll be talked about on the radio, on TV for the next month.
Yeah. And you have to wonder if, on a certain level, if trust has been eroded within the Democrat Party, considering they were telling supporters repeatedly Biden is staying in the race, even up until the day of he announced. So, there might be some trust issues moving forward for sure.
Our full team coverage of President Joe Biden dropping out of the race and what's next for Democrats and Republicans rolls forward at 8:40. We'll speak with Texas Representative Tony Gonzalez, a Republican, his thoughts on what this all means. Charity's got everything you need to know at the bottom of the hour. WOAI News Time 8:26.
8:31 is our time. San Antonio's first news. Good Monday morning. I'm Charity McCurdy. Among our top stories, President Biden bows out of the race for the White House, and Kamala Harris is looking for party support as she wins Biden's endorsement. We'll have the latest coming up. First, traffic and weather together every 10 minutes and mornings. Your Weather Channel forecast for this Monday: mostly cloudy with thunderstorms this afternoon, a high near 90. Showers tonight with storms possible, a low of 75. Right now, 77 degrees. Well, Vice President Kamala Harris is reacting to President Biden's decision to not continue on to accept the Democratic nomination for president. Fox's Gernal Scott has more on Decision 2024.
Vice President Harris's first thoughts were of gratitude, thanking President Biden for his decades of service, and called it an honor to serve with him and watch as he puts the American people and the country above everything else. Her thoughts then turned to President Biden endorsing her as nominee. The vice president said she is honored, but plans to earn and win her party's nomination. Former President Bill Clinton and former party nominee Hillary Clinton have endorsed the vice president, as has South Carolina Congressman Jim Clyburn, whose support vaulted President Biden to the White House 4 years ago. Gernal Scott, Fox News.
Speaking to Fox's Hannity, South Dakota Republican Governor Kristi Noem made this prediction if Harris becomes the Democratic presidential nominee.
I believed she'd pick a woman to be her vice president, so it's a historic ticket, and they can change the whole conversation.
Speaking to Fox's Mark Levin, House Majority Leader Steve Scalise says Democrats rejected the will of their base.
Frankly, I think it's very telling that the leaders of the Democrat Party who were really behind this coup of Joe Biden, it started with Obama, Pelosi, and Schumer, they have not endorsed Kamala.
And former President Obama has not yet endorsed the presidential campaign of Vice President Kamala Harris, but Fox's Brooke Singman tells us who has.
Other big names aren't falling in line either, including former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, and Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer. The Clintons, on the other hand, say they are, quote, honored to join the president in endorsing Vice President Harris and say they will do whatever they can to support her. But the Clintons are not alone. Since Biden's big announcement, 178 Democratic lawmakers have followed suit in endorsing Harris, along with more than half a dozen governors, including Gavin Newsom of California, Kathy Hochul of New York, and Roy Cooper of North Carolina. Brooke Singman, Fox News.
Democrats and Republicans are both wondering about how the rest of the race will play out. Republican Party of Texas Chair Abraham George believes that now that Biden is out, do Democrats even believe he should fill out the rest of his term?
We're trying to figure out if is he fit, according to them, is he fit to continue to be the commander-in-chief? Is that an option for him now? If he's not fit for a election, why is he fit for continue to be the commander-in-chief?
And the Democratic delegations from at least 5 states have endorsed Harris for president. Tennessee became the first state delegation to fully pledge their support for Harris. North Carolina, South Carolina, New Hampshire, and Louisiana later followed. The national finance chair for the Biden Victory Fund told NBC News he believes there will be enough pledged delegates for Harris to be the nominee by the end of business Wednesday. Well, Texas lawmakers are expressing their reactions to the announcement of Biden's exit from the campaign trail.
Austin Congressman Lloyd Doggett, who was one of the first voices to urge the president to drop out of the race, called the decision courageous, putting country over ego in a way Donald Trump never could. State Representative James Tallarico tells KXAN he echoes those sentiments, calling it a stunning act of patriotism.
Yeah, Vice President Harris has my full support, and I have every confidence that she is going to beat Donald Trump this November.
U.S. Representative Jasmine Crockett of Dallas, however, blamed Democrats for it, saying she'd only support Kamala Harris and no one else on the ticket. Eric Lankham, News Radio 1200 WOAI.
And President Biden is canceling a trip to Houston in the aftermath of Hurricane Beryl. Mayor John Whitmire said that Biden had planned to be in Houston on Thursday to recognize the city's preparation for the storm. Biden was diagnosed with COVID on Wednesday for the third time, but it's not clear if that's why his trip was canceled. It is 8:37. Traffic and weather together in a minute. But first, a check of your money and the world of business. We welcome in Ed Corey live at the Bloomberg News Desk. All right, thanks, Ed. News at the top and bottom of every hour, along with breaking news as it happens. I'm Charity McCurdy. Here's traffic and weather.
San Antonio's First News, full team coverage of President Joe Biden dropping out of the race and what's next for Democrats and Republicans. Let's get a Republican perspective right now. He is a congressman of the 23rd District of Texas. He's a Navy veteran. Representative Tony Gonzalez with us. Randy? Our thanks to Tony Gonzalez, Representative Tony Gonzalez of the 23rd District. Coming up, more with Randy Beamer. We'll get you caught up on headlines, traffic, and weather together. WOAI News Time, 844. Just ahead of headlines, traffic, and weather together. More with Randy Beamer in studio and your reaction, your talkbacks on Biden stepping down, perhaps Kamala Harris being the nominee, and what it all means for the 2024 presidential race. First, Charity McCurdy, what stories are you following?
Well, Republicans are demanding President Biden resign now after ending his re-election bid. VP and new presidential candidate Kamala Harris will make her first public comments today at the White House. And Texas lawmakers react to the latest developments in the race for the White House. We'll have the latest coming up right now, traffic and weather together.
Weather Channel forecast, prepare to get wet. 70% chance of afternoon thunderstorms. Heavy rainfall expected overnight. High today, right around 90. Overnight lows in the mid-70s. Tomorrow, morning rain is likely as you drive into work. High in the mid-80s. Wednesday, scattered thunderstorms. Another high in the mid-80s. It is 78 at Fiesta, Texas. 76 in Live Oak. Partly cloudy, 77 at News Radio 1200 WOAI. San Antonio's First News, Randy Beamer in studio. He is a major contributor of our Decision 2024 coverage as we bring you full team coverage of President Joe Biden dropping out of the race and what's next for Democrats and Republicans. Charity McCurdy, Mr. T, is off until Thursday. Charlie Parker coming up later in the week. Our thanks to EJ Pacheco and Andrew Zimmel for doing the heavy lifting technically this morning. And we've been asking you all morning long your thoughts on Biden dropping out.